My name is Jim Miller. My shop is named Willow Winds. I teach traditional wilderness skills. Read a lot of books, went to a lot of museums, and as time went on, began to accumulate enough skills to be able to build a craft that would carry me down the river. And that had always been my goal after building a bow and arrows. And today we have all kinds of survival shows and everything else that are kind of fun to watch on television. But our ancestors weren't trying to survive. They were living, and they thrived. And they had simple tools and simple ways of doing things, but it kept them close to the earth and close to the plants and the trees and the water that gives us all life. So the building of the birch bark canoe includes carving wood. These are different kinds of bows than the bow and the arrow, but this is the ribs, the final step of filling out the big bark basket made from birch that looks like a canoe, but until you put the sheeting in and the ribs in, it's not strong enough. This whole canoe comes right out of the earth. The bark comes from the birch tree and it's turned inside out, so you don't see the white part of the bark unless you look inside the top edge of the canoe there. The inside of the bark, when you take it off the birch tree, is like leather. You look for trees that have bark that's, a good 3/16 of an inch thick, a little better than an 1/8 inch thick, and nice and leathery. Every tree is different, just like people. All of our skin is different. And you can see the different stages of how it's built when you look at these canoes. We get a big piece of bark and lay it on the ground, and we take this little frame and lay it on the bark and bend the bark up around that frame and then put stakes around it to hold it in place. Whether you do it on a board or whether you do it right on the ground, we've done it both ways. Drive the stakes in the ground and hold the bark in place while you begin to sew up these edges. The next step after that is carving the crossbars, or what we call the thwarts, to hold the canoe open. Once those are in place and tied into place, then you start thinking about the ribs, and a 14-foot canoe's got 30 plus ribs inside of it. And the final step would be to put pitch, which is sap from, I'm sitting under a spruce tree here, and we go through the forest with a bucket, birch bark bucket, and a little axe, and knock off the old scars of sap that have healed over a wound on the tree or maybe where a branch has come off of it. So if I'm out paddling my canoe and I happen to run into a log or something, that sap isn't just going to break off and cause a leak. It's quite sticky, but it's also pliable. I started out long ago, one of the first things that I did after making the bows was to learn to work with birch bark. I made many, many different birch bark baskets, some that would hold water, some that were just for gathering berries. All of them were sewn together with the roots from the pine trees. All of them were birch bark. So this man that I met many years ago set me off on a journey, whether he knew it or not. About 3 years later, I met him in '87. About 1990, I quit my day job. I found myself at work one day with a list of things that I needed to do at work, and my list was longer of the things that I really felt like I wanted to accomplish. I guess today you call it a bucket list, but I was just in my early 30s at that time, so it was really, I was just consumed with doing these things. So these are the wilderness skills of our ancestors. These are the things that they did to live from day to day. And as you begin doing these things, you start to realize that each one of these trees has a purpose. Each one of them has a gift that they give us. And of course, my ancestry is French, German, English, Scots, Polish, Welsh, but it's also native. My great-great-great-grandmother was Huron-Wyandot, met my grandfather in Three Rivers, Quebec, and they came into the Detroit area. They are still here in Michigan. They would have come here in a birch bark canoe.